Hello, everybody, and welcome into this week's 30 Minutes program. This is Paul Tinkle, and my guest today is Bronson Bass. He is the Ag Extension Agent for Weakley County, and he's also the Weakley County Director. And Bronson, you and I both have something in common. We both love agriculture.
That's right, Paul. Yeah, you know, it's such a pivotal role in just this country, you know, feeding America and just for the economy and all the opportunity it provides. And, you know, it's just can't stress enough its importance.
Why did you want to come to Tennessee and be the extension agent for Weakley County?
So growing up, originally I'm from a small town, small county, very similar.
Which small town and which small county?
Moorhaven, Florida, down in Glades County, which is south central Florida. You know, if you're familiar with the map, Lake Okeechobee.
Sure.
Down in that area.
Yeah.
Grew up on a cow-calf operation, and we kind of rented some of our ground out for sugarcane as well. So I've been closely tied to agriculture, you know, my entire life. And went to Mississippi State, got my undergrad in animal science, and then went on to pursue my master's in agronomy. So kind of covered multiple aspects of agriculture there with my education. Met my wife, Dr. Kendall Bass. She's a vet at Northwest Tennessee Veterinary Clinic in Dresden. We met at Mississippi State, and she was from Martin. So we ended up back up this way and saw the position was open for extension, you know, and it's just something that I'd got to be involved with some at Mississippi State, working on my master's, and I just really found a passion for, you know, being able to put myself in the farmer's shoes and think about how I can help them and, you know, help make them be successful and just all the positive relationships that come from it. You know, that's what really drew me to extension. Let
me give you a chance to identify the other people that work in the office.
Sure. So in our office, we have myself, and then we have a 4-H agent, Mary Morgan, and then we have a family consumer science agent. Her name is Mackenzie Hurst. And then we also have an agent in the office that we call a split role. Her name's Carrie Beth Neville. So she's 50% adult agriculture and 50% 4-H. And then we also have our administrative assistant, Pam Fields.
You know, the thing about the extension agent, I don't know that people really realize how big this agency is, covering the 35,000 population of Weakley County, but more importantly, thousands of acres of farmland.
That's right. You know, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but, you know, in Weakley County alone, we were somewhere over 200,000 acres of row crop ground that this last census, the 2017 data. 960
miles of county roads also.
That's right. Yeah, you know, moving here, being new to the area, I got to learn really quickly, you know, my way around the county, just, you know, all the back roads, all the county roads, you know, just kind of traveling from field to field, from farm to farm.
Well, you just completed, or there was a program that was just completed here a couple of weeks ago regarding agriculture at the Tennessee Tractor office in Martin. You want to talk about that a moment?
That's right, yes. We had our annual Weakley County Farm Conference a few weeks ago on February the 15th. And so what that is, it's something we do annually, and we have the university specialists come in and speak to the producers. And so we had, you know, topics, everything from corn, soybean, wheat management, speakers talking about that, to disease control, insect control, you know, weed control. So we had our specialists kind of come in, talk about their research that they're doing, you know, at the stations that we have, such as the experiment station in Milan or Jackson, and then there's various other ones throughout the state. They kind of cover that, you know, what their research is doing, how that could be tied into these operations. And they also give updates as far as, you know, what they saw in the previous growing season, what we might need to be looking for this year coming forward. And then ultimately, at the conclusion of that, we're able to, depending on the year, as this stuff goes in cycles, get the producers their certifications for chemical applications, be it private applicator, dicamba, paraquat trainings.
Well, let's talk about that in just a moment. But what was your takeaway?
You know, big takeaway for this year, you know, planting date. We have a new corn and soybean specialist for the state. His name's Dr. Jake McNeil, and he's put a lot of emphasis on kind of looking at shifting our planting dates, particularly with soybeans, kind of looking at getting them planted a little earlier gives a little better time to get that root system developed, and it allows them to kind of combat some stress factors a little better because they are, more established by getting them planted earlier. Additionally, on top of that, there was a federal court ruling that came out on February the 7th in which a federal court judge vacated the registration on 3 big chemical products that are frequently used in the area. So those were 3 dicamba products, Extendamax, Ingenia, and Tavium. And so the critical importance of those products here in Weakley County is most of the crops have been bred and engineered to be tolerant to those chemicals. So that meaning you can spray over the top of those soybeans with that chemical and it won't damage the soybeans, but it will, be active on the other broadleaf weeds coming up. And, weed control is extremely important when you talk about competition for nutrients and things like that in ag fields. And so that federal court ruling vacated those registrations on February 7th, but on February the 14th, so the day before the farm conference, it actually came out. The EPA issued an existing stocks order. So that means that all the product that is either already on farm or in the trade channels will be allowed to be used through this growing season. And so having that timed up with having our weed specialists there to be able to talk about that new ruling and what that looks like for this year was just really perfect timing for that. It was a hot topic and was able to be addressed in a timely manner.
These are easy questions, but I think I know the answer. What's the state of agriculture in Weakley County right now? After we've gone through this past season, closed the books on December 31st, did the farmers do well?
Yeah, I would say this was a great growing season.
Can you say a bumper crop?
You could venture out to say a bumper crop. Yeah,
the price was good.
That's right.
And the producers, they
did well. Yeah, particularly just thinking towards corn. With corn being one of the major crops. Saw really good yields throughout the county. As far as the county average, I haven't seen exactly what that was yet, but I did have a few variety trials that were well over 200 bushels an acre, what they averaged, which, most farmers are very content with that, especially, for dry land, non-irrigated corn. I will say the weather kind of had an interesting factor, if you want me to.
Sure.
On that. Yeah. The weather kind of factored into this previous growing season. If you think back to springtime, around April this past year, we really had some adequate moisture in the soil, but we had a really good window to get those crops planted. We had a good stretch without any rain. Farmers were able to get planted, and then we got a few timely rains there kind of in May to really get that crop going. Then, unfortunately, from in some areas of the county, there was a 39-day stretch beginning May 13th through sometime in the middle of June, depending on where you were in the county. Some places caught rain a little earlier, but that dry period, and then coupled with there was about a week and a half where we had some really high temperatures. 98, 99, 100, 103, kind of that stretch. That's really has a negative effect on that corn pollinating. So there were some fields where, just the way the window of planting and that weather worked out that, saw some pretty negative yields. But overall, really good yields, strong yields throughout the whole county.
If you just joined us on our program today, Bronson Bass is our guest. He's the Ag Extension Agent in Weakley County and also the County Director. Let me talk to you about tobacco. Do we get much tobacco grown here in Weakley County?
Yeah, not really in Weakley County. I'm not sure what the report was, but I believe this past year, the report that I get from the USDA office is we were below 20 acres, I believe. You get over into Henry County, you do see some more.
And Callaway County.
That's right.
And Graves County.
Yeah, right, we're just kind of in a pocket here, and I'm not 100% sure why. It might be more of a cultural thing than anything. Well,
if you don't have it in the family,
that's
you're
right.
not doing it. How about cotton? We've got it in Gibson County. We've got it in Crockett County.
That's I think that's kind of another kind of cultural deal. You think about comparing something like corn, soybeans, and wheat to cotton. Different method of harvesting that. And then location of gins where to take that. We just kind of seem to be on the fringe in Weakley and in Obion County. You got it in Lake County, got it in Henry County, Gibson County. I think 2 years ago we were right around 500-600 acres of cotton for all of Weakley County.
We had over 85, close to 90. This was told to me by a farmer many years ago, that we had approximately 85 dairy farms in this county. And today, as my recollection is correct, it's only one.
That's right. Yep. And
the Bell family, as I understand.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. That's something that has been pretty consistent, not just in Weakley County, but really throughout much of the Southeast. So depending on where you're at, where the opportunity is to be profitable from an agricultural standpoint, you kind of saw that take over the dairies. So here in Weakley County, most of those dairies have been converted to row crop fields. You get down into places like Mississippi, Alabama, a lot of what used to be dairy farms, dating back to the 70s and earlier, a lot of those are now planted in plantation pine. So it just kind of varies regionally, but as a whole, that dairy industry declined, and ultimately, more productive agricultural systems took place there.
Growing up, milking cows, there's so many, and I'm talking about 60s, 70s. I mean, there were some farmers that had 3 barns, and then they would go ahead and consolidate and then have one farm. But the next thing you know, through the years, I mean, we have been trickling down, and California seems to be the number one. And I may be incorrect, maybe it still is Wisconsin, but there's a lot of milk being done in those 2 states, as we all know.
That's right. I'm not totally sure on the numbers, kind of who ranks there. But just kind of something to think about, which I'm sure you can relate to this. The amount of work that goes into those dairies. Getting up every morning, 7 days a week, milking those cows. It was very strenuous, and you think about the amount of labor that went in versus kind of what came out. And just with the progression of agriculture, in amongst all sectors, the development of that, you kind of saw some more profitable or maybe, less labor intensive things come in and take over, and essentially outperform, and started a domino effect, which is kind of what led to those dairies being replaced. You get to other states, you mentioned Wisconsin, California, I'm not totally as versed with agriculture in those states, but there was probably a reason for those dairies to remain in place, because maybe they were the opportunity to be the most profitable, whether it's, the ability to grow grass or different things like that, for those cows to eat. It's essentially whatever is going to be the most profitable tends to usually take over as you progress with development and technology in agriculture.
If you've just joined us again, Bronson Bass is with us. We're talking about agriculture in Weakley County. He's the Ag Extension Agent. So let's touch on the subject of you have the winter wheat crop, and it looks pretty good right now.
That's right. We had our cold spell there, kind of early, middle January, our freeze, and it didn't seem to affect it too much. We've came out of that since then. We've had a pretty warm February for the most part. It's been really great for that wheat crop, and last year we had a fantastic wheat crop as well. So the way things are moving now, hopefully we'll see something like that.
The price of equipment today, it's costing farmers more money than they've ever paid for in their lives to buy a piece of equipment. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, with inflation and interest prices and just the rise of the cost of equipment in general, it really puts a burden on farmers, in all facets, but we'll focus particularly on row crop. That's something that we've actually have a team with the University of Tennessee. The Center for Profitable Agriculture has, regional agents. So we have an agent that covers kind of this western middle Tennessee, and then there's another one that covers the Mississippi River counties in West Tennessee. And so they're constantly kind of looking at things, meeting with producers, helping them to work through any issues they might have, as far as sorting out what can we afford, what where do our decisions need to be, where does our money need to go this year versus in the next year, and things like that. So yes, it definitely is something that is a weight on the producers, but we do with the Extension Service have a team, trying to help, in the best that we can with that.
Well, a lot of the farmers can remember when you actually had to drive the tractor and drive the combine. It's not happened anymore. I mean, at this point, you can sit up there and put something in your ear and listen to it while the tractor does its job with all of the, geofencing and everything else that is taking place.
Right, yeah, with the GPS technology and things like that, it's made the operation of this equipment more efficient, to say the least.
Yeah. Tractors today, the cost factor on those are very, very high. What's a combine sell for nowadays? $500,000, somewhere in that neighborhood?
Yeah, it would depend on your model, but it could be north of that.
Mm. And those are things that people don't realize, that when farmers go out and talk about their crop, they still have a debt service on many of these pieces that they need of equipment. And
that's right, absolutely. With any business, it's not as straightforward as just your profit from what you sell. They've got expenses that they have to pay.
Yeah, there seems to be a very important piece of equipment that came along here maybe 20 years ago, and it's changed farming. It's changed farming forever, and we're talking about the computer. Farmers do everything. They're watching the maps, and of course they can calculate, their acreage and what they're. You want to dive into that for a moment?
Yeah, so whether it's yield monitors, GPS systems, things looking at variable rate fertilizer across the field. There's just a plethora of technology evolved, over the years that is used today in row crop agriculture. And, with that, it just allows those farmers to be much more efficient in their operations, because ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not exactly sure on the figure, but, acreage is declining that is in production, whether it's in Weakley County, the state of Tennessee, the Southeast, America, the world. Worldwide agriculture, the amount of acreage is declining. And once you lose that, once it goes into concrete, it really doesn't come back. So we've got to be able to make more out of less. We have to be able to produce these yields and increase the yields because we're farming on less acreage. And those, computers, GPS systems, yield maps, all of that just allows us to really kind of move in the positive direction with that to try to continue to feed the world.
I don't know what the average price of an acre of farmland goes for today. Can you give me a rough number on that? $6,000, $7,000 an acre? Or?
Yeah, it can be higher than that, depending on the capabilities of that land. How productive it could be. Talking about something as a row crop field that's on a hillside, or something that's down
pasture
in a creek
land.
bottom, or pasture land. Really can vary anywhere from just a few thousand an acre to close to 10, maybe more, just depending on location and what can be done with it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that people don't realize, that a lot of the farmers don't own the land, they rent it.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not sure on what the percentage is of acreage that's owned and farmed by that farmer versus leased out or rented land here in Weakley County. But very few farmers own everything that they're farming. I mean, most of it is rented out, especially on the row crop side.
Yeah, and that brings us up to maybe even another subject, and that is cows. There are there less cows now? Are there more pigs now, or what's the state of poultry and
Yeah, so on the livestock side of things, from a pork standpoint, I think
that's a good start right here. Yeah,
I think we've definitely declined some in Weakley County from what it would have been in years past, just kind of similar to the dairy. On the beef cattle side of things, I want to say the last census report had us around 14,000 head. That was counting cows and calves. So you're looking at, 7,000-8,000 cows in Weakley County. That's something that sounds like a fairly low number, but really for West Tennessee, we're one of the higher counties on the livestock side of things. So, cattle are definitely not something that's an afterthought here in Weakley County. A lot of your row crop farmers have cows as well. One thing you might have noticed, whether it's on Facebook or seen advertisement other places, you might have some farmers just down the road from you that maybe your neighbors that are starting to produce their own beef, calling it freezer beef. So you're able to purchase directly from them or from the processor, and it's beef that was raised and produced right here in Weakley County. So that's kind of a growing sector on the livestock side when it comes to beef cattle.
What's the story on hogs now? How many farmers are doing? Do you have any idea what the picture is today?
Yeah, I'm not sure number wise. It can't be more than a handful in Weakley County that are still producing pigs on a large scale.
Mm-hmm. And how about chickens and eggs? And I still love my fresh eggs. I've got neighbors that provide for us, that gives us, and of course a little bit slows down, as they get older. But let's talk about that, because a lot of folks like to sell their eggs.
That's right. Yeah, thinking back to kind of COVID times, kind of that period when folks didn't really want to get out, some supply in the grocery store might have been down. We really saw an increase in just the homeowners in general kind of having their own backyard flocks. And we've tried to, hold some educational events throughout the state and kind of get some information out to kind of better them. So we've definitely seen an increase with that. And we've also seen an increase in the large scale, commercial poultry operations. There's quite a few here in Weakley County that have came in, and there's several different, contracts through, Tyson being a big one. And so we're seeing more of that. We are.
Well, let's get into the subject of chemicals. If you just joined us, Bronson Bass is our guest, where he's the Ag Extension Agent for Weakley County and also the Weakley County Director. So what did you learn? What was your takeaway on chemicals and what you really, really want the farmers to remember is?
Yeah, on the chemical side of things, something we've been dealing with a lot the last handful of years, dating back to 10 years maybe, is seeing some weeds show resistance to these chemicals. Meaning if you have, ryegrass, for an example, annual ryegrass growing in a row crop field, you want to try to spray that and kill it. Roundup usually would have done the trick. Now we're seeing through some escapes, where Roundup gets sprayed on that one year, doesn't quite kill it because it didn't get enough. It comes to seed. The next year you try to spray it with Roundup, doesn't kill it. So by that, those weeds kind of become resistant, and because of that, we kind of have to adapt our strategy as far as what to apply, when to apply to control those weeds. Not to get into the weeds too much, but there's multiple different, methods of attack with that from a chemical standpoint. The biggest thing is just kind of monitoring your field, knowing what weeds you have when you have them, and really thinking ahead, try to get the jump on them and control them before they, become too big of an issue.
Let me give you a couple of minutes on 4-H, which is a big program in Weakley County. Yeah,
so as I mentioned earlier, we have two 4-H agents in our office, Mary Morgan and Carrie Beth Neville. And, so from a club standpoint, if you have kids in primary or in middle school, you might hear them talk about my 4-H leader having our 4-H clubs. They go into the schools. We'll do kind of some short programs with those students throughout the years, kind of tailored to their grade level and what their curriculum would need to be. And then just a wealth of after-school clubs and programs, everything from shooting sports to chick chain, horse bowl, just a lot of different opportunities for youth to be active and participate, and also kind of have a tie to agriculture and have an idea of, where their food comes from and the importance of all these fields they see around them each and every day.
And you have people that understand disease on trees or flowers and those kinds of things, and you folks are the first phone call they're going to make. That's
right. We get a lot of calls, for just homeowners. What's going on with my tree? Why am I noticing leaves with these splotches on them, or why did my shrubs not green up this year when it warmed up? There's a lot of different factors that can play in at that, but if that's something you have a question with, you can reach out to us, give us a call, and we can help you get to the bottom of it and kind of determine.
And you make house calls.
That's right.
You folks do that.
Yep.
And how about bees? What's going on with the bee camp?
What was that?
Bees.
Yeah. Yes. So, we are seeing, kind of was another similar thing with COVID. Folks having an interest to kind of get into that, kind of have their own bees, kind of locally source their own honey, make it themselves. We do offer a master beekeeping course. There was one that we hosted at UTM last winter. And so, if that's something you're interested in, kind of stay posted, reach out to us, and it'll just kind of work you through all the ins and outs of, how to handle and care for those.
While new on the job still at this time, you're seeing a lot of Weakley County that frankly, I think, is really, really rich in agriculture.
Yeah, it's everywhere you look. It really is. One of our slogans with the Extension Service is everywhere you look, UT. And because of that, it also makes you think, outside of everywhere you look, UT, everywhere you look, agriculture. And if you look around Weakley County, it's everywhere, and it's in multiple various different facets, everything from row crop production to, beef cattle production, poultry, forestry, just a wealth of agriculture here in West Tennessee and Weakley County.
If it could be a perfect farming year, what would a perfect farming year look like here in Weakley County?
Yeah, I think perfect farming year, we'd have, an early planting season, able to get those crops in the ground early and get the right amount of moisture on them, to where they can get up and start off well. And then the big thing is we want to have our rains, spaced out well. We want them to come in a timely manner that's suitable for that crop, but we don't want so much rain that it's runs off and isn't able to be used. And through that, we want a good growing season and we want fall to, kind of be here and not, be such a dry period that it affects our wheat getting planted moving forward.
Bronson, I think it's fair that you and I both would agree on this. Farmers take better care of their stuff better than anybody else. They are the farm. They are the land. They are everything about it. And
That's right. In modern agriculture today, farmers sometimes get a bad rap for not, doing the most sustainable things and maybe having a negative impact on the environment. But when it comes down to each and every farmer, there's nobody on this earth that cares more about the land and the plants and the animals that live on it than the farmers.
You get the last word.
Feel free to reach out to us anytime. Our office is located in Dresden. You can give us a call at 731-364-3164.
Where is the office?
The office is attached to the election commission, so right across Court Square from the courthouse.
So if you're planning to go register to vote, or if you're planning to vote at any time, or whatever you can find the extension agent. This is a really nice place for you guys to have too.
Yeah, it is. It's a great setup for us.
Bronson Bass has been our guest, Ag Extension Agent for Weakley County, the Weakley County Director, and it's been a very pleasure to have you on the radio today. And
yes, sir.
You obviously, we hope we can keep you here, and I know you and your wife love Weakley County, and more importantly, you love the agriculture business, and it is a business too.
That's right. It most definitely is.
That's our program today. Thanks everybody for listening to Bronson Bass with the Weakley County Ag Extension Agency. Paul Tinkle, pre-recorded here. Thunderbolt Radio, Mix 101.3, Star 95.1, and online at thunderboltradio.com. So long, everybody.